The silk of my wedding dress clung to my skin like a shroud, suffocating me with every breath. I pressed myself deeper into the shadows of the underground parking garage, my bare feet silent against the cold concrete as I ran from the only life I'd ever known. Above me, the church bells rang, a beautiful lie counting down to a future I couldn't bear. My name is Elena Moretti, and I was supposed to marry Vincent Rossi in exactly 12 minutes. The problem wasn't that I didn't know Vincent. The problem was that I knew him too well. 3 months ago, I'd discovered what kind of man my father had promised me to, the kind who left bruises shaped like fingerprints on his secretary's throat, the kind whose smile never quite reached his eyes, the kind who collected people like trophies and discarded them just as easily. But my father needed this alliance. The Moretti name, once respected in our tight-knit Italian community, had been reduced to whispers and debts. Vincent's family had money, connections, power. My marriage was the price of my father's redemption. I'd tried to tell Papa what I'd seen. He'd slapped me across the face and told me to stop inventing stories. You're 23 years old, Elena. It's time you stopped being a child and started being useful. Useful. As if I were a tool, not a daughter. The parking garage stretched before me like a concrete labyrinth, filled with expensive cars that belonged to wedding guests who were probably already wondering where the bride had gone. My heart hammered against my ribs as I heard voices echoing from the stairwell. My father's security team, no doubt, hunting for their runaway prize. I needed to hide. Now. My eyes landed on a black limousine parked in the farthest corner, away from the other vehicles. It was longer than the others, sleeker, with windows so dark they looked like pools of oil. The kind of car that cost more than my father's house. The kind that screamed wealth and danger in equal measure. I didn't think. I just moved. The door was unlocked. A miracle or a curse, I wasn't sure which. I slipped inside, my wedding dress rustling like whispered warnings as I climbed into the spacious back seat. The interior smelled of leather and something else. Cedar and smoke. Expensive cologne that made my pulse quicken for reasons I didn't understand. I pulled the door shut as quietly as possible and immediately dropped to the floor, wedging myself into the space between the back seat and the front partition. The carpet was soft beneath my knees, and I curled into the smallest shape possible, tucking my dress around me. My breath came in short, panicked gasps that I tried desperately to quiet. Through the tinted windows, I could see the distorted shapes of men moving through the garage, flashlight beams cutting through the shadows. "She can't have gone far," my father's voice carried across the concrete. "Find her. Vincent's family is waiting." I bit down on my fist to keep from whimpering. The diamond engagement ring, Vincent's claim on me, dug into my palm. I wanted to rip it off, throw it away, but I didn't dare move. Minutes passed like hours. The voices grew distant, then faded entirely. I didn't dare believe I was safe. Not yet. I stayed frozen in my hiding place, every muscle screaming in protest, counting my heartbeats to keep from losing my mind. That's when I heard footsteps approaching. They were different from the frantic searching of the security team. These steps were measured, confident, accompanied by the softer tread of at least 2 other people. I held my breath as the footsteps stopped directly beside the limousine. "Sir, the perimeter is secure." A deep voice, respectful but alert. "Good." The second voice made my skin prickle. It was smooth, controlled, with an edge of darkness that promised both danger and protection. Young, not much older than me, but weighted with authority. "Any issues?" "Some commotion near the church entrance. A wedding party, seems like they lost their bride." A pause. I could feel my heartbeat in my throat, certain they could hear it through the car door. Not our concern. The dangerous voice held a note of amusement. "Let's move." The door opened. I tried to press myself even smaller, but there was nowhere to go. The overhead light flooded the interior, and I knew that my hiding place was pathetic. White silk and tulle spilled out from beneath the seat like a beacon, impossible to miss. A shoe appeared in my line of vision. Black, Italian leather, polished to a mirror shine, expensive in a way that made Vincent's designer suits look cheap. "Sir," the first voice started, alarmed. "I see her, Marco." The shoe didn't move. Neither did I. "Give me a moment." The door closed again, sealing us in darkness and that intoxicating scent of cedar and smoke. I heard the subtle click of locks engaging, the quiet hum of the partition rising between the back seat and the driver's section. We were alone. I still didn't move, couldn't move. My body had frozen in place, every survival instinct screaming at me to become invisible, even though I knew it was far too late for that. "You can come out now." The voice was closer, just above me. Not angry, almost curious. "The door locks from the inside. No one's getting in." I didn't trust my voice, so I stayed silent. A long exhale, and then the seat cushion beside me compressed as weight settled onto it. "Let me guess. You're hiding from someone. Someone you're afraid of." A pause. "Someone you were supposed to marry, based on that dress. How did he—" "I heard the commotion," he continued, as if reading my thoughts. "Wedding party in chaos, security team searching for someone. And now I find a terrified woman in a wedding dress hiding in my car. Doesn't take a genius to connect the dots." Slowly, painfully, I uncurled myself from the floor. My legs had gone numb, and I had to grip the seat to pull myself up. The man, because I could see now that he was a man, not much older than me, maybe 28 or 30, watched me with eyes so dark they were almost black in the dim light. He was beautiful in a way that made my chest ache. Sharp cheekbones, a jaw that looked carved from marble, dark hair swept back from his face. He wore a 3-piece suit in charcoal gray that probably cost more than my father's annual income. And when he moved, I caught the glint of a watch that could have bought a small car. But it was his eyes that held me frozen. Intelligent, calculating, and completely unreadable. "I'm sorry," I whispered, my voice hoarse from crying earlier. "I didn't know anyone was... I just needed to hide. I'll go." "You'll go where?" He tilted his head, studying me like I was a puzzle he was trying to solve. "Back to whoever you were running from?" I had no answer. I hadn't thought beyond escape. I had no money, no phone, no shoes, just a wedding dress and a desperation that tasted like copper in my mouth. "What's your name?" "Elena." It slipped out before I could stop it. "Elena." He repeated it like he was testing how it felt in his mouth, and something about the way he said it made my skin flush. "I'm Dante. Just Dante. No last name. As if that should mean something. "I really should go," I said again. But I didn't move. The alternative, facing my father, facing Vincent, made my stomach turn. Dante's eyes narrowed slightly, and I realized he was looking at my neck. I fought the urge to touch the small bruise there. Vincent's preview of our wedding night, delivered 3 days ago when I'd tried to postpone the ceremony. "Someone hurt you. It wasn't a question. It's nothing. It's not nothing." His voice dropped lower, and I heard something dangerous threading through it. "Who did this to you, Elena? It doesn't matter. I just need to." "It matters to me." The words hung in the air between us, weighted with something I couldn't name. We stared at each other in the darkness of the limousine, and I felt the strangest sensation, like the world had shifted slightly off its axis, like nothing would ever be quite the same again. That's when my father's voice carried across the parking garage, closer now. "Check every car. Every single one." Panic seized my chest. Dante heard it too. I saw his jaw tighten, saw the way his body went very still, very alert. He reached up and tapped twice on the partition. It lowered immediately. "Sir?" "Drive," Dante said simply. "Now. But sir, we haven't—" "Drive, Marco. We're leaving. Take the back exit." The engine purred to life, smooth and powerful. I felt the car begin to move, and my heart lurched. "Wait. What are you doing?" Dante looked at me, and for the first time, I saw something that might have been a smile ghost across his lips. "Saving you, apparently. Unless you'd prefer I hand you over to whoever's hunting you." The limousine picked up speed, and through the tinted windows, I saw my father's security team running toward us. Too late. We burst out of the garage into blinding sunlight, and I realized with a mixture of terror and relief that I was leaving. Actually leaving. "Where are you taking me?" My voice shook. Dante settled back against the seat, his eyes never leaving mine. "Somewhere safe. Somewhere no one will find you." He paused, and this time the smile reached his eyes. Dangerous, possessive, and utterly captivating. Somewhere that belongs to me. The limousine merged into traffic, carrying me away from everything I'd ever known, toward a future I couldn't begin to imagine. And the man sitting across from me, this stranger who'd found me at my most vulnerable, watched me like I was something precious he'd just discovered, something he had no intention of letting go. The city blurred past the tinted windows, familiar streets becoming foreign territory with each mile that separated me from the church. I should have felt relief. Instead, a different kind of panic settled into my bones, the realization that I'd traded one unknown for another, possibly more dangerous one. Dante hadn't spoken since we'd left the parking garage. He simply watched me with those impossibly dark eyes, patient as a predator, while I tried to process what I'd done. What he was doing. I don't understand, I finally managed, my hands twisting in the silk of my dress. Why are you helping me? You don't even know me. I know enough. He leaned forward slightly, and the scent of cedar and smoke intensified. I know you were desperate enough to hide in a stranger's car. I know someone put their hands on you. His gaze flickered to my neck again, and his jaw tightened. I know that whoever was chasing you terrified you more than the risk of climbing into a vehicle that could belong to anyone. That was stupid of me, I whispered. That was survival. He pulled out a phone, sleek, black, expensive, and typed something quickly before setting it aside. Marco, how far are we from the estate? 20 minutes, sir, came the response through an intercom I hadn't noticed. Estate. The word conjured images of sprawling properties behind iron gates, the kind of wealth that existed in a different stratosphere from my father's modest restaurant and debts. I can't go to your home, I protested, even as the limousine continued carrying me farther away. I don't know you. This is safer than wherever you'd go on your own. Dante's voice remained calm, reasonable. Elena, look at yourself. You're wearing a wedding dress. You have no shoes, no money, no phone. Where exactly were you planning to go? The truth of his words stung because I had no answer. I'd been so focused on escaping that I hadn't thought beyond the immediate moment. My friends, the few I had, were all connected to my family. I had no extended relatives who would risk my father's wrath by harboring me. No resources of my own. I have a cousin in Boston, I said weakly. I could what? Walk there? He raised an eyebrow. Call her with the phone you don't have? Pay for a bus ticket with money you don't possess? Each question felt like a gentle trap closing around me. He wasn't wrong. I was completely, utterly helpless. Why do you care? I asked, hating how my voice cracked. You could have just let me go, pretended you never saw me. Something shifted in Dante's expression. Not quite a smile, but not quite not one either. Maybe I'm curious. Maybe I don't like seeing women hurt. Or maybe... He paused, considering his words. Maybe I recognize something in you that I understand. What's that? The look of someone caught in a cage they didn't build. The observation hit too close to home. I turned away, staring at my reflection in the dark window. My carefully styled hair had come loose from its pins, dark curls falling around my shoulders. My makeup was smudged from tears I didn't remember crying. I looked like exactly what I was, a girl playing dress-up in a future she couldn't afford. My phone, Vincent's engagement present, complete with tracking software I'd discovered too late, was still in the bridal suite. My purse, my identification, everything was back at the church. I'd left with nothing but the dress on my back and a desperation that tasted like ash. The man you were supposed to marry, Dante said quietly, drawing my attention back to him. Tell me about him. Why? Because I want to know what kind of monster puts bruises on his bride before the wedding. I swallowed hard. Vincent Rossi. His family owns several businesses in the city. Restaurants, nightclubs, some real estate. He's well connected. I watched Dante's face carefully for any sign of recognition. The Rossi name carried weight in certain circles, the kind of circles that dealt in cash and favors, and things that happened in shadowy corners, but Dante's expression remained neutral, almost bored. "And your family arranged this marriage?" "My father made a deal. Vincent's money for our name, our connections in the community." I laughed bitterly. The Morettis used to mean something. Now we're just broke and desperate. "So he sold you." The bluntness of it made me flinch. "He calls it securing our future. I call it trafficking." Dante's voice had gone cold, and I saw his hand curl into a fist against his thigh before he deliberately relaxed it. "How long have you known? About the arrangement? 6 months? About what Vincent really is?" I touched the bruise on my neck without thinking. 3 months. I found him in his office with his secretary. She was crying, begging him to stop. He had his hand around her throat. The memory made bile rise in my throat. I'd backed away slowly, hoping he hadn't seen me, but Vincent had excellent peripheral vision. He'd smiled at me over the woman's shoulder, hadn't even let her go, and said, "Hello, darling. Come to visit?" I'd run. And later, when I'd tried to tell my father, he'd called me a liar and a child. "Did he threaten you?" Dante asked. "Not directly, but he made sure I understood what would happen if I embarrassed him. His family. My family." I met his eyes. "People like the Rossis don't take rejection well." "No," Dante agreed softly. "They don't." Something in his tone made me look at him more carefully. The expensive suit, the limousine, the way his driver had called him "sir" with unmistakable deference. The casual authority with which he'd ordered us to leave, no questions asked. "Who are you, really?" I asked. "I told you." "Dante." "That's not an answer." He smiled then, a real smile that transformed his face from merely handsome to devastating. "It's the only answer you're getting today, Elena. For now, let's just say I'm someone who can keep you safe. Safe from Vincent, safe from anyone who would hurt you." The certainty in his voice should have frightened me. Instead, it settled something restless in my chest. This stranger, this man I'd known for less than an hour, spoke with the kind of conviction that made me want to believe him. The limousine turned onto a private road, and I watched as iron gates swung open automatically. We drove through manicured grounds, gardens that probably required an army of gardeners, fountains that looked like art installations, trees that had been growing for decades. "This is where you live?" I breathed. "One of the places." Dante's attention never wavered from me. "The main house is secure, protected. No one gets in without my permission." The house appeared through the trees, a sprawling estate that made my father's home look like a cottage. Stone and glass, modern lines mixed with classical elegance, windows that reflected the late afternoon sun like mirrors. We pulled up to the front entrance, and immediately 3 men in dark suits appeared. Not servants, security. I could tell by the way they moved, the way their jackets hung slightly heavier on one side, the constant scan of their surroundings. Dante noticed my observation. "I take my privacy seriously." Privacy or protection? Both. He stepped out of the limousine and offered me his hand. "Come, let's get you inside." I hesitated. This was it. The moment where I either trusted this stranger or demanded he take me back to my father, back to Vincent, back to a future that would destroy me piece by piece. Dante waited patiently, his hand extended, his expression giving nothing away. I took his hand. His fingers closed around mine, warm, strong, possessive in a way that should have frightened me but somehow didn't. He helped me out of the car, and I became acutely aware of my bare feet on the gravel drive, the ridiculous wedding dress that marked me as a runaway bride, the vulnerability of my position. "Marco," Dante said without looking at his driver, "have Rosa prepare the guest suite, East Wing, and get Elena something appropriate to wear." "Of course, sir. What size?" "I'll handle it." Dante's thumb brushed across my knuckles, a gesture so casual it took me a moment to register it. "Come on. You look like you're about to collapse." He was right. Adrenaline had carried me this far, but exhaustion was crashing over me in waves. I'd been awake since 4 a.m, preparing for a wedding I never wanted. I hadn't eaten, could barely think beyond the next breath. Dante led me through massive double doors into a foyer that looked like it belonged in a museum. Marble floors, a sweeping staircase, artwork that was probably worth more than my entire neighborhood, but I barely registered any of it because every step felt like moving through water. Easy. Dante's arm came around my waist, supporting me when I swayed. "When did you last eat?" "Yesterday. Dinner." "Maybe." He said something sharp in Italian. A curse, I thought. And suddenly I was being swept off my feet, literally, cradled against his chest as he carried me toward the staircase. "I can walk," I protested weakly. "You can barely stand." His hold tightened. "Stop being stubborn and let me help you." Something about being carried by this stranger, this man who smelled like cedar and danger, made my eyes burn with tears I'd been holding back for hours. I pressed my face against his shoulder and let myself break, just a little, while he carried me up the stairs and down a hallway that seemed to stretch forever. He pushed open a door with his shoulder, and I glimpsed a bedroom that was larger than my entire apartment. Cream walls, soft lighting, a bed that looked like a cloud. Dante set me down gently on the edge of the mattress. "Stay here. I'll be right back." He disappeared through a doorway, and I heard water running. When he returned, he was carrying a glass and several small towels. "Drink this." He handed me the water. "All of it." I obeyed, suddenly realizing how parched I was. The water was cold and perfect, and I drained the glass in seconds. Dante knelt in front of me, this powerful man in his expensive suit, on his knees at my feet, and began gently cleaning the dirt and small cuts from where I'd run barefoot through the parking garage. "You don't have to do this," I whispered. "I know." His touch was surprisingly gentle, careful not to hurt me. "But someone should take care of you, Elena. Someone should have been taking care of you all along." The tenderness in his voice, in his touch, broke something inside me. Tears spilled down my cheeks, and I couldn't stop them. Dante set aside the towel and rose, sitting beside me on the bed. He didn't tell me to stop crying, didn't offer empty platitudes. He simply pulled me against his chest and held me while I fell apart, one hand stroking my hair, the other wrapped firmly around my waist. "You're safe now," he murmured against my temple. "I promise you, Elena, you're safe." And God help me, I believed him. I woke to unfamiliar shadows and the scent of lavender on expensive sheets. For a disorienting moment, I couldn't remember where I was. Then it all came rushing back. The wedding. The escape. Dante. The room was dark except for a sliver of light coming from beneath what I assumed was a bathroom door. I sat up slowly, my body aching from tension and exhaustion, and realized someone had removed my wedding dress while I slept. I now wore an oversized silk shirt, charcoal gray, smelling faintly of cedar, that fell to my knees. Panic fluttered in my chest until I noticed the dress draped carefully over a chair by the window, and a small note on the nightstand written in decisive handwriting. "Rosa helped you change. You were unconscious. Sleep as long as you need." The consideration in that simple note made my throat tight. I checked the antique clock on the mantel. Nearly 9 in the evening. I'd slept for over 4 hours. My stomach growled, reminding me I hadn't eaten since yesterday. I slipped out of bed, my bare feet sinking into carpet so plush it felt like walking on clouds, and padded to the door. My hand hesitated on the handle. What was I doing? Where did I think I was going? But hunger and curiosity won out. I opened the door to find the hallway softly lit, and I followed the sound of distant voices downstairs. The house was even more impressive at night. Recessed lighting guided my path, illuminating artwork I was too nervous to examine closely. I descended the sweeping staircase, following the low murmur of conversation and the rich aroma of something cooking. I found Dante in what appeared to be a study, door half open, his back to me as he spoke on the phone in rapid Italian. Even from behind, he commanded attention. Shoulders broad beneath a white dress shirt, sleeves rolled to his elbows, revealing forearms corded with muscle. He'd shed his jacket and vest, and something about the casual intimacy of seeing him this way made my pulse quicken. "Don't care what excuses he has," Dante was saying, his voice hard as granite. "The shipment was supposed to arrive yesterday. If he can't deliver on time, we'll find someone who can." A pause. "No, No second chances. He knew the terms. I should have announced myself. Instead, I stood frozen, listening. What about the Rossi situation? Another voice. Marco, I thought, spoke from somewhere inside the room. My breath caught at Vincent's family name. Handle it quietly, Dante replied. I want to know everything about the wedding that didn't happen today. Who was involved, what deals were made, why they needed it so badly. Another pause. Longer this time. And find out everything you can about the girl's father, Antonio Moretti. I want his debts, his connections, everyone he owes. Sir, if I may, getting involved with the Rossis isn't... I didn't ask for your opinion, Marco. Dante's tone could have frozen fire. I asked you to gather information. Can you do that, or do I need to find someone who can? Of course, sir. I'll have a report by morning. Good. Now leave me. I have calls to make. I heard movement and quickly backed away from the door, pressing myself against the wall. Marco emerged, a tall man with silver threading through his dark hair, wearing the same dark suit from earlier. He paused when he saw me, his expression unreadable. Miss Moretti. He nodded politely. Can I help you with something? I heard voices. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to intrude. You're not intruding. This is your home now. He said it matter-of-factly, as if it were perfectly normal for a strange woman to suddenly take up residence. The kitchen is through there, second door on the left. Rosa left dinner warming for you. He walked away before I could process his words. You're home now. What did that mean? Are you going to stand in the hallway all night? Or are you going to come in? Dante's voice from inside the study made me jump. I edged to the doorway to find him standing by a massive desk, pouring amber liquid into 2 crystal glasses. He'd turned to face me, and the lighting cast shadows across his features that made him look both younger and more dangerous. I didn't mean to eavesdrop, I said quickly. Didn't you? A hint of amusement touched his lips. Come here, Elena. It wasn't quite a command, but something in his tone made my feet move before my brain caught up. I entered the study, all dark wood and leather, books lining the walls, a fireplace crackling with warmth, and stopped a few feet from where he stood. He held out one of the glasses. Drink this. You look pale. I don't really drink. It's brandy, not poison. It'll help settle your nerves. I took the glass with shaking hands and sipped. The liquid burned going down, but he was right. Warmth spread through my chest, easing some of the tension. Dante leaned against his desk, watching me over the rim of his own glass. How are you feeling? Confused? Scared? Grateful? I met his eyes. I heard you on the phone. Into Vincent. You're looking into my father. I am. Why? Because I need to understand the situation I've inserted myself into. He swirled the brandy thoughtfully. You ran from something, Elena. That something isn't going to simply disappear because you're not there. Your father will look for you. So will the Rossis. The reminder sent ice through my veins. I know. That's why I should leave. I shouldn't have come here. Shouldn't have... Where will you go? He set his glass down and moved closer, closing the distance between us with predatory grace. You have nothing. No resources, no protection. How long do you think you'd last out there before someone found you? I don't know, but I can't stay here. You don't understand. Vincent's family, they're not people you want problems with. They're connected. They're dangerous. Dante's laugh was low and dark. Elena, do you really think I'm afraid of the Rossis? Something in his tone made me look at him. Really look at him. The expensive clothes, the palatial estate, the security personnel, the way Marco had called him sir with absolute deference. The casual authority with which he'd made that phone call, discussing shipments and consequences without a trace of concern. Who are you? I whispered. Really? Dante reached out slowly, giving me time to pull away, and tucked a curl behind my ear. His fingers lingered against my cheek, and I felt my breath hitch. I'm someone who takes what he wants and protects what's his, he said softly. And right now, Elena Moretti, I want you safe, which means you stay here, under my protection, until I decide it's safe for you to leave. You can't just decide that. I'm not... I'm not yours to protect. His thumb traced my jawline, tilting my face up to meet his gaze. Aren't you? You climbed into my car. You let me bring you to my home. You're wearing my shirt. His eyes dropped to where the silk hung on my frame, and something heated flickered in their depths. You fell asleep in my bed, the guest bed, I corrected weakly. In my house, under my roof. That makes you mine to protect. The possessiveness in his voice should have terrified me. Instead, it ignited something low in my belly, a response I didn't want to examine too closely. I don't even know your last name, I protested. Dante Caruso. He said it like it should mean something, like I should recognize it. I didn't. But the way he watched me suggested he expected a reaction. Should that mean something to me? A smile played at his lips, part amusement, part something darker. Probably better that it doesn't. It means you're more innocent than I thought. His hand fell away from my face, but he didn't step back. The Caruso family has been in this city for 3 generations. We handle certain interests that operate outside conventional business. Understanding dawned slowly. The security, the casual mention of shipments and consequences. The way he'd spoken about handling the Rossi situation. I couldn't say it. Couldn't form the words. Careful, Dante warned softly. Some things are safer left unspoken, even in private. But I understood. God help me. I understood exactly what he was telling me. I'd run from one dangerous man straight into the arms of another, possibly even more dangerous. You should be running, he said, reading my thoughts. You should be terrified. So why aren't you? I am terrified, I admitted. But not of you. Not the same way I was terrified of Vincent. Why not? Because Vincent's violence was casual, recreational. Because he enjoyed causing pain, but Dante, everything about Dante suggested controlled danger, violence with purpose. He'd held me while I cried, cleaned my feet, made sure I was comfortable before I slept. Because you've had 100 chances to hurt me, I finally said, and instead, you've been kind. Something shifted in Dante's expression. Surprise, maybe, or something else entirely. Kindness is a weakness in my world, Elena. Then maybe I bring out your weaknesses. The words hung between us, charged with meaning I hadn't intended. Dante's eyes darkened, and he took a step closer, close enough that I could feel the heat radiating from his body. Be very careful, Piccola, he murmured. I'm not a good man. I've done things that would make you run screaming. The only reason I'm being restrained right now is because you've been through enough today. Restrained from what? His hand came up to cup the back of my neck, and I felt my pulse jump beneath his fingers. From doing what I've wanted to do since I found you hiding in my car. From claiming what walked into my life and asked to be saved. My mouth went dry. I didn't ask. You got into my car. You let me bring you here. You stayed. His thumb traced the line of my throat. Those were all choices, Elena. And now I'm making one too. You're under my protection. That means no one touches you without answering to me. No one takes you without going through me. You understand? I should have said no. Should have pushed him away, demanded he take me somewhere, anywhere else. But instead, I found myself nodding, mesmerized by the intensity in his eyes. Say it, he demanded softly. Say you understand. I understand. Good girl. The approval in his voice sent heat spiraling through me. He released me suddenly, stepping back, and I almost swayed from the loss of contact. Now go eat. Rosa left dinner in the kitchen. You need to keep your strength up. What about you? I have work to do. Calls to make. Problems to solve. He returned to his desk, already reaching for his phone. Marco will show you around tomorrow. Consider this house your sanctuary, but don't leave the grounds without security. And Elena? I paused at the door. Yes? Thank you. For what? His smile was slow, dangerous, and utterly captivating. For trusting me with something precious. I don't take that lightly. I fled before I could do something stupid, like ask him exactly what he meant by that. My heart hammered as I found the kitchen, a massive space of marble and stainless steel where a covered plate waited on the counter. Chicken. roasted vegetables, bread that smelled like heaven. I ate mechanically, my mind replaying everything Dante had said. The possessiveness, the promises, the casual way he'd claimed me as his to protect. I should be planning my escape, should be terrified of what I'd stumbled into. But all I could think about was the feel of his hand on my neck, the heat in his eyes, the certainty in his voice when he'd called me precious. I'd run from one cage straight into another. The only difference was that this cage was gilded with something that felt dangerously like desire, and the man holding the key made me want to stay. 3 days passed in Dante's gilded sanctuary, and I learned what it meant to live in his world. The estate was a universe unto itself. 30 acres of manicured grounds surrounded by walls I couldn't see but knew were there. Rosa, a woman in her 50s with kind eyes and careful silence, brought me clothes that fit perfectly. Soft sweaters, well-cut jeans, dresses in jewel tones that made me feel like someone else entirely, someone who belonged in a place like this. But I didn't belong. I was a guest, a problem to be solved, a responsibility Dante had taken on for reasons I still didn't fully understand. I saw him rarely during those first days. Glimpses, mostly, his broad shoulders disappearing into his study, his voice carrying down hallways as he conducted business in Italian or English, depending on who called. Once I'd watched from an upstairs window as he walked the grounds with Marco and 3 other men, all of them armed, all of them listening intently to whatever orders he was giving. He moved like violence waiting to happen, like power wrapped in expensive suits and controlled fury, and I couldn't stop thinking about him. On the 4th morning, I woke to find a box on the chair in my room, the guest suite I'd claimed, though Rosa had started calling it my suite with a knowing smile. Inside was a phone, sleek and new, with a single number programmed in. Dante was all the contact said. I stared at it for a long moment before the device buzzed with a message. Meet me in the garden at noon. We need to talk. My stomach nodded. This was it. The conversation where he told me he'd found somewhere else for me to go, that his protection had limits, that I couldn't stay here forever playing hide and seek from my former life. I dressed carefully in dark jeans and a cream sweater, pulled my hair into a loose braid, and made my way downstairs precisely at noon. The garden was at the back of the estate, accessible through French doors in what Rosa called the morning room. Dante was waiting by a fountain, hands in his pockets, face tilted toward the sun. He'd shed his usual armor of suit jackets and ties, instead wearing dark slacks and a charcoal Henley that clung to his frame in ways that made my mouth dry. He looked younger this way, more approachable, though no less dangerous. You came, he said without turning around. You told me to. I gave you an option. There's a difference. He finally looked at me, and something in his expression made my pulse quicken. How are you settling in? Fine. Rosa's been very kind. The room is beautiful. I twisted my hands together. I'm grateful for everything you've done. But we both know I can't stay here forever. Can't you? He moved closer, and I fought the urge to step back. What's waiting for you out there, Elena? Your father who sold you? A fiancé who marked you as his property? The bruise on my neck had faded to yellow-green, but Dante's eyes found it unerringly. I'll figure something out. I always do. You shouldn't have to figure something out. You should be safe, taken care of. He reached out, trailing a finger down my arm. Protected. Is that what this is? Protection? I managed to keep my voice steady, despite the electricity his touch sent through me. Or something else? Dante's smile was slow, predatory. What do you think it is? I swallowed hard. I think you're a man who's used to getting what he wants, and I think I walked into your life at exactly the wrong moment. Wrong? His hand closed around my wrist, thumb finding my racing pulse. Or exactly right? Before I could answer, Marco appeared at the garden entrance, his expression tight. Sir, we have a situation. Dante's entire demeanor shifted, from the man who'd been flirting with me to someone cold and lethal in the space of a heartbeat. What kind of situation? Antonio Moretti is at the front gate, with Vincent Rossi and 6 of his men, the world tilted. My father. Vincent. Here. How did they... I couldn't finish the sentence. Terror closed my throat. Dante's hand tightened on my wrist. Not painfully, but firmly, anchoring me. Get her inside. 3rd floor, east wing, the secure room. Don't let her leave until I come for her. No, I heard myself say. I should go. This is my fault. I shouldn't have come here, shouldn't have. Elena. Dante turned to me, and the intensity in his eyes stopped my spiraling panic. Listen to me very carefully. You are under my protection. That means I handle this. Not you. Me. Understand? But Vincent Rossi is nothing. The contempt in his voice was absolute. He's a small man playing at power. And your father. Something dangerous flickered across his face. Your father made his choice when he sold you. Now he gets to live with the consequences. Dante, please. He cupped my face in both hands, forcing me to meet his gaze. Trust me. Can you do that? I wanted to say no. Wanted to run. To face this myself. To not drag him deeper into the mess I'd created. But the steadiness in his eyes, the absolute certainty in his touch, made me nod. Good girl. He pressed a kiss to my forehead, brief, possessive, burning. Marco, take her. Now. Marco's hand was gentle but immovable on my arm, guiding me back toward the house. I looked over my shoulder to see Dante straightening his shoulders, his entire bearing shifting into something that made him look taller, more commanding, utterly untouchable. Then Rosa was there, shepherding me upstairs, down a hallway I hadn't explored, into a room that looked like a comfortable sitting area, but had reinforced doors and no windows. You're safe here, mija, Rosa said softly, pressing a glass of water into my shaking hands. Señor Caruso won't let anything happen to you. You don't understand. Vincent's family, I understand perfectly. Rosa's smile was sad and knowing. I've worked for the Caruso family for 20 years. Trust me when I say there is no one in this city who frightens Dante Caruso. Not the Rossis, not anyone. She left me alone with those words and my racing thoughts. I paced the room like a caged animal, imagining every terrible scenario. My father's fury, Vincent's calculated cruelty. Dante caught in the middle of a war he hadn't asked for. 20 minutes felt like 20 hours before the door opened. Dante stood there, not a hair out of place, no signs of violence or confrontation. But something in his eyes had gone cold and hard, the look of a man who'd just done something unpleasant but necessary. Are you... I rushed toward him. What happened? They're gone. He caught me as I reached him, hands settling on my waist, and they won't be coming back. How can you be sure? Because I made them understand that you're under my protection, and anyone who touches what's mine answers to me personally. His jaw tightened. Your father tried to negotiate, offered me money to return you. When that didn't work, he tried threats. Horror washed over me. Dante, I'm so sorry. I never meant for... Stop. His grip tightened. You have nothing to apologize for. Your father should be apologizing to you. And Vincent Rossi. Something dark and satisfied crossed his face. Vincent Rossi now understands exactly what happens to men who put their hands on women under Caruso protection. What did you do? What needed to be done? He studied my face, reading the fear there. I didn't kill him, if that's what you're worried about, but I made sure he understood that you are off limits, permanently. He won't accept that. Vincent doesn't take no for an answer. He'll take it from me. Dante's voice was absolute. The Rossis may think they run things in their corner of the city, but they know better than to challenge my family. Not over this. Not over you. Why? The question burst out of me. Why are you doing this? You don't know me. You don't owe me anything. Why risk conflict with them over a stranger? Dante was quiet for a long moment, his dark eyes searching mine. Then he said, very softly, You stopped being a stranger the moment I found you hiding in my car, Elena. The moment I saw the terror in your eyes and knew I couldn't just walk away. That's not a reason. That's not... You want a reason? He pulled me closer, until I could feel the heat of his body, smell the cedar and smoke scent that I'd started to associate with safety. Fine. Here's your reason. I watched my mother spend 20 years in a marriage that destroyed her piece by piece, watched my father parade his mistresses through our home while she smiled and pretended everything was fine, watched her fade until there was nothing left but a ghost in expensive clothes. His hands came up to frame my face, and I saw something raw and honest in his expression. She died when I was 19, and I swore I would never stand by and watch another woman be sacrificed for some man's pride or profit. I would never let another woman suffer because the men in her life failed to protect her. His thumb brushed across my cheek. So when I found you, terrified and running, marked by a man who thought he owned you, there was no question. There was never a question. Tears burned my eyes. I don't know what to say. Don't say anything. He leaned down, resting his forehead against mine. Just stay. Stay here, where you're safe. Let me keep you safe. For how long? As long as you need, as long as you want. His breath ghosted across my lips. Forever, if that's what it takes. The word hung between us, forever, weighted with promise and possession in equal measure. I knew I should pull away, should maintain distance, should remember that this man was dangerous in ways Vincent could never be, that his protection came with strings I couldn't see yet. But instead, I found myself asking, "And what do you want?" Dante's eyes darkened. "You already know what I want, Piccola. I've wanted it since the moment I found you. The question is, what do you want?" My heart hammered. I want to not be afraid anymore. Done. I want to not feel like someone's property. You're not property. You're... He seemed to struggle with the word. You're precious. Important. Mine to protect, not mine to own. There's a difference. Is there? I challenged. Because the way you talk about me, the way you look at me, it feels like ownership. Maybe it is. He didn't try to deny it. Maybe I am possessive. Maybe I do want to wrap you up and hide you from the world. But here's the difference, Elena. You can leave. Anytime. I won't stop you. I'll give you money, resources, a new identity if that's what you need. Just say the word. But... His smile was slow and dark. But I will spend every moment until then, convincing you to stay. Before I could respond, his mouth claimed mine. The kiss was nothing like I expected. Not gentle or exploratory, but claiming, possessive, all-consuming. His hands slid into my hair, tilting my head back as he deepened the kiss, and I felt my entire body ignite. This was what I'd been circling around, denying, trying not to want. This dangerous man, and the way he made me feel safe and terrified and alive all at once. I gripped his shoulders, felt the muscle beneath the soft fabric, and kissed him back with all the fear and relief and desperate need that had been building for days. He made a sound low in his throat, approval and hunger, and pulled me closer until there was no space between us. When he finally pulled back, we were both breathing hard. His eyes were nearly black, his control visibly fraying. "That," he said roughly, "is why you should be running from me, because I want things I have no right to want. Because I look at you and think mine in ways that should frighten you." "Then why don't they?" I whispered. "Why do I feel safer with you than I ever did before? Because you know I'd burn the world down before I let anyone hurt you." He traced my swollen lips with his thumb. "Because you recognize that my darkness is different from theirs. My violence has purpose. My protection is absolute. And what happens when you decide I'm not worth protecting anymore?" His laugh was low and dangerous. "That's not going to happen, Elena. You don't understand yet, do you? You walked into my life at exactly the right moment. You gave me something to protect. Something precious. Something that makes me feel human instead of..." He stopped, jaw tightening. "Instead of the monster my world tries to make me. You're not a monster. You don't know what I've done, what I'm capable of. Maybe not." I touched his face, feeling the tension in his jaw. "But I know what you've done for me. I know how you've treated me. That's not a monster, Dante. That's a man trying to do the right thing." Something in his expression cracked, just for a moment, before his usual control slid back into place. "Stay," he said again, softer this time. "Stay with me. Let me keep you safe. Let me..." He stopped, seemed to reconsider. "Let me show you what it's like to be protected instead of owned, to be wanted instead of sold, to be cherished instead of used. And God help me, I wanted that. Wanted it with a ferocity that should have terrified me. Okay, I whispered. Okay, I'll stay. The smile that spread across Dante's face was pure triumph and something deeper, something that looked almost like relief. He kissed me again, slower this time, thorough and claiming, sealing whatever bargain we'd just made. When he pulled away, his eyes held a promise that made my pulse race. You're mine now, Piccola, and I take care of what's mine. 2 months transformed everything. Winter settled over the estate like a blanket of diamonds, frost painting the windows in intricate patterns that caught the morning light. I'd stopped thinking of the guest suite as temporary and started calling it mine, though more often than not, I woke in Dante's bed, wrapped in sheets that smelled like cedar, and the man who'd claimed my heart piece by dangerous piece. He'd been true to his word. I wasn't a prisoner, wasn't owned. But I was his in ways that went deeper than possession. I was protected, cherished, pursued with a single-minded intensity that left me breathless. Dante courted me like a man conducting a siege. Flowers appeared in my room, not roses, but wildflowers he somehow knew I preferred. Books materialized on my nightstand, titles I'd mentioned wanting to read. He taught me Italian over breakfast, laughing when I butchered the pronunciation, his hand always finding mine across the table. He took me into the city with security, shadowing us discreetly, showing me museums and restaurants, treating me like I was precious instead of a problem to be managed, and at night, he held me like I might disappear if he let go. We hadn't crossed that final line. Not yet. Dante insisted on giving me time, space to heal from everything I'd been through. But the tension built between us like a storm waiting to break, every touch and kiss stoking flames that threatened to consume us both. I learned his world in fragments. The phone calls he took at odd hours, always in Italian, his voice hard with authority. The meetings in his study with men who looked at him with respect and fear, the way Marco reported to him about shipments and territories and problems handled. I understood what he was without him saying it explicitly, and strangely, it didn't frighten me. His darkness had purpose, his violence was controlled, directed, never casual or cruel. He was nothing like Vincent. The thought of my former fiancé sent a chill through me even now, standing in Dante's study on a gray December afternoon, watching snow begin to fall. Vincent had tried twice more to reach me. Calls to the new phone Dante had given me, messages that started as apologies and devolved into threats. Dante had handled it quietly, and the calls stopped. My father hadn't contacted me at all. The silence hurt more than I wanted to admit. You're thinking too loud. Mo, I turned to find Dante leaning against the doorframe, watching me with those dark eyes that saw too much. He'd been out all morning, business he wouldn't discuss, and still wore his coat, snowflakes melting in his dark hair. Just watching the snow, I said. Liar. He crossed to me, pulling me into his arms with the casual possessiveness that had become familiar. What's wrong, Piccola? I pressed my face against his chest, breathing in his scent. Nothing. Everything. I don't know. That's not an answer. It's the only one I have. I pulled back to look at him. Dante, what are we doing? What is this? His jaw tightened. What do you want it to be? I struggled for words. I want to know if this is real, if I'm really safe here, or if I'm just hiding from one cage in another, prettier one. Something flickered in his eyes. Hurt, maybe, or frustration. Have I made you feel caged? No. Never. But I touched his face, felt the tension there. I can't hide here forever. Eventually, I need to figure out what comes next. Who I am outside of being Elena Moretti, the runaway bride, outside of being under your protection. And what if I want you under my protection permanently? My breath caught. What are you saying? Dante was quiet for a long moment, his hand coming up to cup my cheek. I'm saying that somewhere between finding you in my car and watching you sleep in my bed, you became essential. I'm saying that I wake up thinking about you and go to sleep wanting you. I'm saying that the thought of you leaving makes me want to lock every door and burn every bridge until you have no choice but to stay. That's obsessive. Possessive. I know. His thumb brushed across my lips. But I've never pretended to be a good man, Elena. I've only ever promised to keep you safe. To treat you better than anyone else ever has. To give you choices instead of demands. He paused, and I saw a vulnerability flash across his face, rare and precious. But I can't promise not to want you. Can't promise not to do everything in my power to make you want to stay. I already want to stay, I whispered. That's what terrifies me. Why? Because what happens when this ends? When you get tired of playing protector? When someone prettier, less complicated walks into your life? Dante's laugh was low and incredulous. You think any of this has been a game? He pulled me closer, until I could feel his heart racing against mine. Elena, I have spent my entire adult life maintaining control, building walls, keeping distance between myself and anything that could be used against me. And then you stumbled into my life, terrified and vulnerable and so damn brave, and shattered every wall I'd built, his forehead pressed against mine. You think I don't know how insane this is? I found you 4 months ago. 4 months. I should be maintaining distance, treating this like a temporary arrangement. Instead, I'm planning how to keep you here permanently, thinking about what you'd look like waking up in my bed every morning for the rest of my life. Imagining... He stopped, jaw clenching. Imagining what? Everything. A future. Something permanent. His hands framed my face. I'm imagining you as mine in every way that matters. And I know I have no right to want that after everything you've been through. I know you need time, space, freedom to figure out who you are outside of being someone's obligation. But Elena, his voice dropped to something raw and honest. I need you to know that when you're ready, if you're ever ready, I'm here, waiting. Wanting you in ways that go deeper than protection or possession. Tears burned my eyes. You're talking about everything, he confirmed. I'm talking about you staying not because you're afraid of what's out there, but because you want to be here, with me. I'm talking about building something real, something that's ours. Dante, I struggled to find words. I was supposed to marry someone else 4 months ago. I ran from that. How do you know I won't run from this? Because I'm not Vincent Rossi. His voice went hard. I'm not your father. I'm not going to hurt you or sell you or treat you like property. I'm offering you a choice, Elena. Stay because you want to. Leave if you need to. But know that either way, you'll always be safe. You'll always be protected. You'll always be... He stopped, seemed to struggle with the word. What? I pressed. I'll always be what? Mine, he finally said. Even if you leave, even if you decide this isn't what you want, you'll always be the woman who broke through my walls, the one who made me feel human again, the one He stopped again, and I saw something vulnerable flash across his face. Say it, I whispered. Please. The one I love. The words came out rough, like they'd been torn from somewhere deep. I love you, Elena Moretti. Completely. Obsessively. In ways that probably aren't healthy or sane. But it's real. And it's yours. Whether you want it or not. The world seemed to stop. Snow fell outside the windows in silent witness, and I stared at this dangerous, complicated man who'd just given me his heart wrapped in honesty and vulnerability. I love you too, I heard myself say. I think I have since you carried me up those stairs and held me while I cried. Since you cleaned my feet and made sure I was safe. Since you stood between me and everyone who wanted to hurt me. Tears spilled down my cheeks. I love you, and it terrifies me because I don't know how to trust this. How to trust that it's real. Then let me prove it. Dante kissed me softly, carefully, like I was something precious he was afraid of breaking. Let me spend every day showing you that this is real, that you're safe, that you're loved in ways that have nothing to do with obligation or ownership. How? I asked against his lips. His smile was slow and full of promise. Marry me. I pulled back, certain I'd misheard. What? Marry me, he repeated, and I saw no hesitation in his eyes, only certainty. Not because your father arranged it. Not because someone sold you, but because you choose to. Because you want to build a life with me. Because... He reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. Inside was a ring. Not ostentatious or showy, but elegant. A single diamond surrounded by smaller stones that caught the light like captured stars. I bought this 3 weeks ago, Dante admitted. Been carrying it around, waiting for the right moment. Trying to convince myself I wasn't completely insane for wanting to marry a woman I've known for 4 months. He took the ring out, holding it between us. But here's what I know, Elena. I know that you're the first person I think about in the morning, and the last person I want to see before I sleep. I know that you make me want to be better than what this world tries to make me. I know that imagining my future without you in it feels like dying. He took my hand, but didn't slide the ring on. Not yet. So I'm asking. Not demanding. Not arranging. Asking. Marry me because you want to. Marry me because you love me. Marry me because you want to build something real with me. Something that's ours and no one else's. And if I say no, I had to know. Had to test this. Then I put this away and keep loving you anyway. Keep protecting you. Keep hoping that someday you'll be ready. His grip on my hand tightened. I meant what I said, Elena. You have choices here. Always. Even the choice to break my heart. I looked at the ring, at the man holding it, at the life he was offering, a life of protection and passion, danger and devotion, built on choice instead of obligation. I thought about the girl who'd hidden in his car 4 months ago, desperate, terrified, running from a future she couldn't bear. And I thought about who I'd become in his care. Stronger, braver, loved in ways I'd never imagined possible. Yes, I whispered. Dante's eyes widened. Yes? Yes, I'll marry you. Not because I'm hiding or scared or have nowhere else to go, but because I choose this. I choose you. I choose us. I smiled through tears. I choose love instead of obligation. Partnership instead of ownership. A future built on trust instead of fear. The joy that spread across Dante's face was pure and unguarded. The smile of a man who'd just received something he'd never dared hope for. He slid the ring onto my finger with shaking hands, and it fit perfectly. You're sure? He asked, even as he pulled me into his arms. Absolutely certain, because once you're mine, truly mine, I'm never letting go. I'm sure. I kissed him, pouring everything I felt into it. I'm yours, Dante Caruso. Completely. Obsessively. In ways that probably aren't healthy or sane. His laugh was joy and relief and triumph all at once. He swept me up in his arms, just like that first day, and carried me toward the door. Where are we going? I asked. To tell everyone that you've agreed to become my wife. To start planning a wedding that's about what you want, not what anyone else decides. To begin our life together properly. He paused at the threshold, his dark eyes serious. And then, if you want, I'm going to take you upstairs and spend the rest of the day showing you exactly what it means to be loved by me. Heat pooled low in my belly. I want that. All of it. Good. His kiss was possessive and promising. Because you're mine now, Piccola, and I take care of what's mine. 6 months later, the garden was transformed into something from a dream. White flowers and soft lights, chairs filled with people who'd become family, Rosa crying happily in the front row, Marco standing as Dante's best man with barely concealed approval, even a few of Dante's business associates who'd learned to accept me as their boss's greatest vulnerability and most protected asset. But no one from my old life. My father had made his choice, and I'd made mine. I stood at the entrance in a dress I'd chosen myself. Simple, elegant, nothing like the confection I'd run from months ago. No veil to hide behind, no heavy silk weighing me down. Just me, Elena Moretti, about to become Elena Caruso by choice. Dante waited at the end of the aisle in a black suit that made him look like sin personified. His eyes locked on me with an intensity that made my breath catch. This was nothing like that other almost wedding. This was real, chosen, built on love instead of obligation. I walked toward him without hesitation, without fear, knowing that this was exactly where I belonged. When I reached him, Dante took my hands and whispered, "You're stunning." "You're biased," I whispered back. "Completely." His smile was soft and genuine. "Ready to be mine?" "I've been yours since the moment you found me," I admitted. "This just makes it official." The ceremony was short and perfect. Traditional vows that we'd both insisted on. Promises of love and faithfulness, partnership and protection, building a life together through whatever came. When the priest pronounced us husband and wife, Dante kissed me with a tenderness that brought tears to my eyes. "Mine," he murmured against my lips. "Finally, officially, completely mine." "Ours," I corrected. "This is ours." His smile was everything, joy and possession and love all mixed together. "Ours," he agreed, "forever." Later, after the reception and the toasts and the dancing, Dante carried me over the threshold of the master suite that had become ours, setting me down carefully and turning to lock the door. "Are you happy?" he asked, pulling me into his arms. "Happier than I ever thought possible," I admitted. "I ran from a wedding 4 months ago and somehow ended up here. With you, building a life I actually want." "No regrets?" "Not a single one." I touched his face. This man who'd saved me in every way that mattered. "You kept your promise. You showed me what it means to be protected instead of owned, loved instead of used, chosen instead of sold, and I'll keep showing you every day for the rest of our lives." He kissed me softly. "You're my wife now, Elena. My partner. My equal. My everything. And you're my home," I whispered back. "The man who found me when I was lost and gave me a reason to stop running." Outside, snow began to fall again, painting the world in white. Inside, wrapped in Dante's arms, I finally understood what it meant to be safe, to be loved, to be free. I'd hidden in a stranger's car to escape a wedding, and somehow found my way to forever. Not the prison my father had tried to sell me into, but a partnership built on choice and trust and love that went deeper than possession. Dante Caruso had kept every promise. And now, as his wife, I got to spend the rest of my life watching him keep proving that some cages aren't prisons at all. They're sanctuaries built by love, protected by devotion, and freely chosen by hearts that recognize home when they find it. "I love you," I told him. "I love you more," he replied, and sealed the promise with a kiss that tasted like snow and cedar, and the beginning of everything we'd build together. Our forever started in the back of a limousine with a terrified girl and a dangerous man, but it would continue here, in this life we'd chosen, built on something infinitely more precious than obligation. It was built on love, real, chosen, unbreakable love, and that made